So I recently saw The Godfather praised at this year's fiasco of an Oscars. For like the 50th time on the 50th anniversary of the film. The presentation felt drained of life and inspiration. Then I ended up watching the trilogy to defy the presentation's lifelessness, and for the first time since I saw the trilogy in the 90s, these movies inspired cinematic life from lifelessness. Does The Godfather saga hold up on the 50th anniversary of the first picture? Feel free to like and subscribe, and let's find out.
You get the hell out of here!
Hey, shut up, Conrad.
Hey, don't you ever tell her to shut up.
And I'm going to blame some of the people in this room.
Capisci, paesano?
Who capisci?
In a nutshell, The Godfather tells the story of a man's descent into darkness through the acquisition of money and power, the genesis of how a good man becomes bad through the involuntary inheritance of his father's criminal career, putting his immediate blood family in danger. That's the true crux of this story, more so than Sicilian immigrants, the New York Mafia, etc. Yes, we've seen more on-the-ground realism from the mob genre in subsequent years.
Tommy had killed a made guy.
But The Godfather's allegorical key theme of a man's core being corrupted by adversities and power is what makes at least the first two pictures universally great and timeless.
Godfather 1 and Godfather 2. The other one stunk.
No, Dad.
Matched up with great acting from its main characters and side characters, no less.
Are you telling me that the Italians guarantee our investment?
The resurrection of Marlon Brando's career matched up with the inception of Pacino and De Niro's career, not to forget Devon Khan's performances and many, many other unforgettable performances.
I'm Mo Green.
I can't control him, Mikey.
Teach. Avant.
The family had a lot of buffers.
Over the years, frankly, I don't like the way the Godfather saga has been interpreted by various personalities.
But don't ever take sides with anyone against the family again. Ever.
You never let anybody step foot or get out of line when it comes to your family.
Ever.
Talking about family.
It's a story about family, and the Michael Corleone character uses protecting his family as a blanket justification for all his nefarious activities.
I spent my life protecting my family!
This girl has no family. Nobody.
The self-righteousness of, if you say anything about my family, just as an excuse to be self-serving, belligerent, and obnoxious.
Look at my father! You're getting f***ing hot-headed. What, did you see my father on the floor?
Certain morons interpret the Michael Corleone character's Machiavellian narrative to justify and excuse their own reckless BS.
Goes off the top. It's an expense. It's only business. I think they said that in The Godfather.
It's strictly business.
Whilst missing the whole point of the story entirely.
May.
If you touch one of mine, I touch two of yours. Eventually, any micro-infraction has to be self-righteously avenged. All the quotes, don't ever take sides against the family business ever. AKA do as I say, not as I do. The quote.
This is the business we've chosen.
Used to justify any amoral practices because it's somehow okay, because it's attached to this profound moment in pop culture history. The Godfather, allegorically, was a critique of post-World War II capitalism and individualism, but the surface of its iconic influences take precedence over its deeper points. The other major flaw I saw over the years with the first two pictures,
The other one stunk.
was in fact its inherent lack of realism in terms of the real New York Mafia.
You're gonna take over.
I'm German-Irish.
You're gonna be the Don.
First off, no big-time New York Mafia boss historically then went on to have a son who went on to be a boss of equal if not more criminal power. That works in Sicily or Naples, or even Detroit with the Zarellis, but not in the sprawling metropolis that is the Big Apple, America's cultural and economic capital.
I love this town!
5 families divided into territories in the 5 boroughs, New Jersey and beyond. Gangsters are going to be loyal to other gangsters from their neighborhoods, or gangsters from other neighborhoods, but not the sons of different gangsters from totally different neighborhoods. It's logistically not feasible to have hundreds of street guys be at peace with a blood family's nepotism over a metropolitan crime family. I'd watch The Godfather and I'd be like, look at this stoic, calculating criminal mastermind. Yeah, right. In real life, the best you're gonna get is John Gotti Jr.
You can move on with your life, you can change.
The dude who joined the mob to get all the adulation like his dad, then couldn't handle the burden and tried making movies instead, after maybe informing, maybe being chased out of the life, etc. Whether he's that goofy or not, That's the impression of the second generation New York mob boss, so much so that the Sopranos character Little Carmine Lupatazzi is clearly based on John Gotti Jr.
The fundamental question is, will I be as effective as a boss like my dad was? And I will be. Even more so, but until I am, it's going to be hard to verify that I think I'll be more effective.
John Gotti Jr., who actually believes he's Michael Corleone.
What I want, what's most important to me.
What I want, what's most important to me.
You sound like you're out the f***ing Godfather.
Sadly, a lot of people across the board who have a vicarious Godfather fantasy are much more Colin Corleone than Michael Corleone.
The life and times of Colin Corleone.
Yes, Gotti Jr. is modern era, but even in the Godfather era, second generation mob bosses in New York, at best you had Bill Bonanno, son of Joe Bonanno. They both ended up being chased out of New York.
You're getting chased out of New York.
And losing control of the crime family that bore their name. Having said all of that, the first two Godfather movies are some of the greatest movies in the history of cinema, period.
The other one stunk.
The essence is about a man's moral bankruptcy,
You lousy, cold-hearted bastard.
the dissolution of the nuclear family and neighborhood communities. It struck a chord with audiences' hearts and minds back in 72 and 74 as the cultural revolution of the mid-late 60s was, even in its inception, leaving people in the West nostalgic for the more stable and traditional times of the post-war years. It's no coincidence that Godfather 1 and 2 were extremely successful around the same time. 50s nostalgia like American Graffiti and Happy Days came out. Third generation American immigrants were missing their parents' and grandparents' neighborhoods and communities and nuclear family customs.
Here's the cake.
Hey, Sally, get in here.
The Godfather came into the pop culture landscape at this time and made the Italian-American family unit glorified and romanticized for 50 years to come.
Manja.
Go ahead.
And it's a 2-bottle minimum.
You spend $1,000 a night on champagne?
Can I come home to a peaceful house one goddamn night?
And thus, Italian organized crime would be romanticized for 50 years to come.
It was among the Italians.
Author Mario Puzo's romantic interpretation of powerful personalities meshed with director Francis Ford Coppola's personal experiences of Italian-American families equals the great pieces of cinema that are the first two movies.
The other one.
Shut up.
The sibling dynamic, the strong patriarch backed up by a strong matriarch, the sister married off to a punky guy, and an overzealous protective brother. For years I was like, I'm not even feeling this calculating, brooding, college-educated racketeer. I want to see wise guys.
What'd you say? Are you being a f***ing wise guy with me?
Bobby D in Goodfellas and Mean Streets, or give me Ali P in Donnie Brasco.
That would mean you were a made guy. A capiche?
However, now, after watching it as a result of the Oscars fiasco, it's a powerful tragedy of someone whose external family circumstances brought out the worst of whatever dormant demon that person had buried deep down inside. Even that cold stare he has is so representative of dozens of people you meet who may be civilized on the surface, but you can tell they're totally subtly disempathic, and you just know with the right circumstances this person would completely f*** you over and not even blink an eyelid. That is the magic of this saga, the food for thought component. Mafia realism or not, Michael Corleone kills his older goofball brother for quote-unquote injuring him, and even Mafia powerhouse tough guy Fat Andy Ruggiano said that was too far.
Because I would have never killed my brother, I would have just chased him.
But that's the whole point. It's the allegorical story of a college-educated sociopath who even eliminates his own flesh and blood in the pursuit of power and dominance. The family thing is why it stuck with audiences over the years. So really, this family dynamic made The Godfather, as it's a fictional story. 50 years later, with all the true crime genre material out there now, The Godfather saga still holds up as the greatest mob movies from this genre, with only Goodfellas on par with the first two movies.
The other one.
The Godfather's strength can be its weakness. It's so great, it's been oversaturated into the pop culture lexicon and landscape that it's been cheapened by all the Colin Corleones of the world.
We're Italians.
I'm a true La Cosa Nostra.
Colin, knock off all this Godfather stuff!
John Gotti Jr. is a form of Colin Corleone.
What I want,
what's most important to me.
I'm a Colin Corleone. You even get pompous academic types who are Colin Corleones, hence Mr. Fleeber from The Freshman.
Michael Corleone says that
in an evolving society, violence and narcissism
replace Randy.
Shut up!
The Godfather, 50 years later, holds up as some of the greatest modern cinema ever, despite all the misinterpretations.
Don't ever take sides with anyone.
Against the family again.
Ever.
If you've made it this far, thank you very much. Feel free to like and subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one.
Godfather 1 and Godfather 2. The other one.
Will you shut up?